His name was Walter Green, 65 years old. Worked nights as a janitor at Timmins College, a small campus tucked between pine trees and red brick buildings. He had kind eyes, slow hands, and always whistled the same tune while sweeping hallways, a tune nobody else could quite name, but somehow felt familiar. Students saw him every night. Same navy jumpsuit, same mop cart, always humming, always smiling. But what most people didn't notice was that Walter listened, not to gossip, not to noise, to classroom doors. Every night, once his work was done, and the halls were quiet, Walter would stop just outside, room 104, the intro to philosophy class, and he'd listen. Some nights he'd even sit in the back row if no one minded, didn't say a word, didn't bring a laptop, just sat with a notebook and a pencil, nodding as the professor spoke. And over time, Walter learned something most people paid thousands for. Not just about Plato, or ethics, or the meaning of life. He learned that it's never too late to ask questions. Walter never missed a class, not one. Rain, snow, midterms, he was there. Sometimes he'd sweep between rows before class started. Sometimes he'd quietly wipe the whiteboard clean and leave a fresh marker on the tray. And then, when the room filled, he'd sit in the back corner. Quiet, still, listening like the words were gold. He never asked for credit, never turned in a paper, never raised his hand. But every time Professor Ames looked up, there he was, Walter, notebook open, pen tapping gently, head tilted in thought. Other students began to notice too. At first, they didn't get it. Why's the janitor here again? Doesn't he get bored? He's not even getting a grade. But over time, their tone changed. Walter, what did you think about the discussion tonight? You explain it better than the book. I wish I could remember things like you do. Walter just smiled. A clean floor, a full mind, that's a good night's work. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more inspiring stories. It happened on a Wednesday. The class was talking about purpose, what gives life meaning, what makes someone feel seen. Professor Ames paused after a question and looked to the back of the room. Walter, he said, what do you think? The room turned. Some eyebrows lifted. Walter blinked. Me? Yes. You've been here all year. I want your thoughts. Walter sat a little straighter. He cleared his throat and said, well, I think purpose isn't what you do. It's how you do it. Some folks write papers, some sweep floors. But if you do it with care, and it helps someone, that sounds like meaning to me. The room was silent for a second, then someone whispered, wow. Another student clapped softly. And Professor Ames? He smiled like a proud parent. That class, he said, is philosophy in real life. That moment changed something. Walter wasn't just the janitor anymore. He was Walter, a thinker, a listener, a man who never asked to be noticed, but finally was. Timmins College wasn't a big school, but its library smelled like old paper and hope. Its hallways echoed softly at night, and its classrooms held stories, the kind most people never hear. His Walter had cleaned every floor, replaced light bulbs, unclogged sinks. But the room that mattered most, room 104, it had become more than a space, with desks and chalk. It was his classroom, his chance. His little window into a world he'd once believed was closed to him. You see, Walter never got to finish high school. Family needed him. Work came fast. Life moved hard. But books always waited. And now, in the quiet hours after classes ended, he sat surrounded by words he never thought he'd understand, and understood them anyway. Graduation day came in late May. The sun was bright. Rows of folding chairs covered the campus lawn. Parents held flowers. Students wore caps and gowns, grinning for photos. Walter watched from behind the maintenance tent. Same jumpsuit, same keys clipped to his belt. He had helped set up the stage that morning. As always, he planned to stay in the back, sweep after it was over, make sure nothing got left behind. He didn't expect anything, but someone had a different plan. Professor Ames stepped to the podium and cleared his throat. Before we begin handing out degrees, there's one more person we need to recognize. Students looked around. A name wasn't on the program. Whispers began. This individual never missed a class, the professor continued. He took no tests, submitted no papers, but he showed more heart and wisdom than anyone I've ever taught. And then he said it. Mr. Walter Green, please come forward. Walter froze. A hush fell over the crowd. He blinked, looked around, thought maybe it was a joke. Then students started clapping. Someone stood, then another, and then, the entire graduating class rose to their feet, clapping, cheering, calling his name. Walter, 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 Walter. He stepped forward slowly, hands shaking, eyes wide, and when he reached the stage, the dean held out a folder. Inside was a certificate. It read, Honorary Bachelor of Liberal Studies awarded to Walter Green, in recognition of his dedication to lifelong learning, thoughtful presence, and humble wisdom. Walter held it like it was made of glass. He didn't speak at first. Then, into the mic, he said, I always believed learning was something other folks got to do. Not me, but this school, this class, this room, made space for me, and I'm telling you now, it's never too late to grow. The crowd cheered again. Even the teachers wiped their eyes. Walter stepped off the stage, degree in hand, and for the first time in his life, he wasn't just walking halls, he was walking proud. The photo of Walter holding his honorary degree made the local paper the next morning, then the state paper, then the internet. People from all over wrote letters. Some said he reminded them of their own fathers. Others said he gave them the courage to go back to school. The college set up a small scholarship in his name, the Walter Green Lifelong Learning Fund, for students returning to education later in life. But Walter, he still worked the night shift, still whistled down the halls, still kept room 104 spotless. Except now, he wore a new badge under his name tag, Honorary Graduate, Class of 24, and when students passed by him, they nodded, they smiled. Some even stopped to say thank you, because they didn't just see a janitor anymore, they saw a teacher in disguise. 1 year later, Professor Ames walked into room 104 to start a new semester. There was a small brass plaque on the back wall. He hadn't seen it before. It read, In this room sat a man who taught us all what it means to learn. He asked no questions out loud, but answered many with his life. In honor of Walter Green, that day, Professor Ames began his class, the same way Walter used to listen, with quiet, with care, with respect for the people who carry books, even when the world thinks they carry brooms. He sat quietly in the back. He never asked for credit, but when his name was finally called, everyone stood, because the man who cleaned the halls had filled them with wisdom, one quiet night at a time. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more inspiring stories.